Hello! Today I'm very excited to be opening these two pocket boxes by Van Gogh with shades of nature and muted colours. These are watercolour sets and I got these for an absolute steal, $10 each when normally they are $50 each, so $20 instead of $100 is a huge saving, and I am really thrilled to finally have a couple of sets to try out. So let's get into it! Along with opening these sets, I'm also going to start a new Etcher sketchbook. I've already filled in one of these, it's an A4 size, but I had two in the pack and this is my second one. I've filled in the title page here, and already this book fell apart. I opened this page for the first time and the whole seam just ripped open without me doing anything. And then the binding started to come away from the rest of the book, so that was really horrible, but I have managed to put some PVA glue in and it seems to be back to normal. Thankfully, because I could not return this book, I bought these a couple of years ago, so it's well past returning stages, but I thought I might as well start swatching and painting in this book as well, and in order to do my swatches, I'm going to try out these waffle flower stamps. I have no idea how well these are going to work. I do have some permanent archival ink which is waterproof, and I've got a little acrylic stamp holder thing here, so I'll get that going in a bit. But firstly, let's open up these boxes and see what the paints look like inside. If I flip it round, we can get a preview of the colours that are inside, and this one is Shades of Nature. And they're all beautifully wrapped. So this is definitely a brand new set, it has not been used, and it looks like it's got a tiny little brush. Let's have a look. It's very flimsy, plasticky feeling, but the brush itself actually looks quite nice. So I'm pretty sure I've read that these are a student grade paint, not professional, but I've heard also that they're very nice, so I guess we'll be finding out in due course. And I'll just quickly open the other box up. So I'll flip it over and there's a little palette of colours which look rather interesting. I think I'm already seeing a problem with the two palettes of colours, but we'll get to that. And of course a helicopter has to fly right on by. I hope that's not too noisy in the audio here. And sure enough, these ones are wrapped as well, and here's another little brush. Pretty much the same. I guess I'll get unwrapping. So this one's buff titanium by the looks of it. Always a useful colour to have. I'm really hoping there'll be a label on the pan itself. These look like half pans, but at least they come out, which is really great because then you can add different colours in and you don't have to be stuck with the palette that it provides. These look like they've been extruded, so it comes out in a tube and then gets cut off and then put into the pans. It's got the number on it, but I will probably label them with the actual name as well because I will never remember that. I'm just going to unwrap all of these and I will come back when I have labelled them and we can get swatching. Oh, well, that took an age, but I've unwrapped them all. And what are these three doing, you ask? Well, these are doubles from three of these colours, which is super annoying. I didn't realise that when I bought the two sets. I don't think it would have mattered anyway just because of the price of them. But what I think I'm going to do is actually keep these wrapped and store them just as replacements for these ones when I run out of them. I had a look and here's a standard half pan. They do not fit in there properly, look at it. So the Van Gogh's specific half pans fit beautifully snugly and they're really easy to pull out, which is great. Happily, the art shop that is local to me sells the single half pans of these colours, and so I was thinking I might get three different colours to put in here. And the other reason is because this set, which is Shades of Nature, does not have a blue at all, and that's kind of weird. I mean, you'd think you'd have at least one blue so you can paint a sky, and this set has one blue, but it's indigo, which is the darkest blue and tends to be more of a blacker blue, so I think I might have to go out and get a couple of blue colours or maybe a red or something, so that will be further down the track. But for now I'm just going to stick with the colours that I have here, and I will just use these colours to swatch out these three here. Of course none of the stamps I have align with this rather unusual layout of colours, which is 2 up here and then 5 on each row here, but I do have this big stamp which is 12 colours. And I think I'm just going to use that because I am the height of laziness and I really don't want to have to do individual ones because I'm just going to make a huge mess. So I'm going to use this big stamp here, and I found a larger acrylic block. I bought these things years ago, not really knowing if I'd ever use them. Finally, they are coming in handy. Oh, this is very sticky. This ink pad may well need to be re-inked as well, but I am having trouble finding a re-inker at the moment, so okay, it seems to be working alright, which is good. You do remember to use a waterproof ink when making swatches, because if you use just a standard stamp pad, it's going to run everywhere as soon as you lay your watercolours onto it. I'll get as much ink on there as I can. I'm not a stamping expert by any means. A total novice would be more like it. Oh, I really hope this works. It's not going to be even, I just know it. But if I can get something, I'll be happy. There we go, it's down. I'm not sure if that's even. And I'll press it and hope like heck that that ink transfers properly onto the paper. Okay, moment of truth. Kind of. It's not too bad, at least you get the idea. We'll do a second one underneath, and then I'll have space over here if I want to buy some extra colours in the future. So I'll basically re-ink the whole thing and start again. It's reasonable. I mean, you can see it's gone a bit fadey in the middle. Oh well, that was my first attempt and it's not too bad. I filled in the names for them. It'll have to do. I've already made a mistake on one of them because I completely skipped it. I'm off to a really great start here. Starting off with Shades of Nature, and here we go in with Titanium Buff. Why it's not called Buff Titanium, I don't know, but whatever. And you can see that one was pretty opaque. The Burnt Sienna, on the other hand, is very transparent, and it's quite a orangey one, which I like. And next up is Azo Yellow Medium, and I just realised I completely forgot to put the pigment numbers down for these colours, so I do apologise for that. Moving on to Yellow Ochre, you can see the Azo Yellow and the Yellow Ochre are two nice yellows, and then we have this Azo Methine Green Yellow, which I'm assuming is just Azo normally, which it's nice, but when you add it with the other two yellows, it's a bit too many in the set. Then we have the Olive Green, which I do like, it's a lovely muted green, and onwards to another brown, which is Burnt Umber, a pretty standard brown, but I like this one, it's a nice rich colour. And then the one that I'd missed out and had to go back for was Permanent Orange, that's nice and bright. And then we have Raw Sienna, which honestly is not that different to Yellow Ochre, and in my opinion you do not need both of them in one palette. One of those could have been taken out and replaced with the blue. But anyway, going on, we've got Raw Umber, and then a really bright Sap Green. It bothers me a lot that the two greens aren't sitting next to each other. And the last one here is Van Dyke Brown, a lovely dark brown, and which turned out very useful. Next up we have muted colours, and if you're wondering why there are three missing, the first one should be Titanium Buff, the second is Yellow Ochre, the third here we have Gamboge, which is a lovely bright yellow and not what I would call a muted colour, neither is that Quinacridone Rose, gorgeous but very much not a muted colour either. The Indigo is lovely and dark blue, it is the only blue in both of these sets, which is kind of strange. The missing one in the corner there is Olive Green, and then we had the lovely dark sepia, kind of similar to Van Dyke Brown but a bit cooler I think. The next one is Naples Yellow Red, which you probably can't see for my messy writing. The next two colours, Lavender and Turquoise Green, are both really pretty and I like those two in the set. Then there's Davies Grey, which is quite warm and has a bit of a greenish undertone, and the last one is Neutral Tint, which is the darkest of all of the colours. So for now I'm just going to do some paintings in the book. I have an entire page to do paintings over here, so I'll have a think about it and come up with some pictures that are inspired by these colour palettes. I'm looking at this indigo and the sepia. It looks like I am getting just a little bit of chalkiness. Now they're drying, I can see that these are student grade rather than professional grade, but otherwise they're pretty good. So let's get painting! I'm starting off with the Shades of Nature, and this was the most challenging of the two palettes. I looked around to see what I could find that didn't have blue in it, or grey for that matter, and I found a really great photo of a sparrow on the Facebook free reference photo page. You do have to apply to join, so I don't think I can link it in the description, but hopefully I'll remember to credit the photographer who took it. So the colour palette was mostly okay for this particular picture, although there were a couple of areas where the sparrow's face is actually more of a dark grey, and I did not have any kind of blue to turn those browns into a black or grey, so I just had to make do with the browns in this case. The Van Dyke brown, when used pretty concentrated, was close to black, so that was good. I think I used just about all of the paints from this palette in the painting, which is quite fun. I ended up painting the background in both shades of green, the olive and the sap green. Here you can see I'm using that Van Dyke brown for the black areas, and it wasn't too bad. But I had fun with this. The Sparrow turned out pretty well in the end, and even though this was a limited palette, the paints themselves are really nice to use, and they flowed perfectly well on the paper. I'm also using just the brush that came with the set, and that was fine as well. It held a surprising amount of water, and sometimes I even put too much water on the page. But that's always much better than a paintbrush not holding enough water. Quality-wise, this set is pretty impressive and I enjoyed using it. Colour-wise, it desperately needs a blue and a deeper red than what was in here because everything is just pretty much orange or yellow tinted, so technically it's almost missing two primary colours, a blue and a red. That's pretty tough. Also, I hadn't used this Etcher sketchbook paper for a while, and I'd forgotten how wonderful it is. It's such a nice cotton paper. Paint just flows across it. And you can also see that I forgot to tape around the edges of this. I'd drawn borders with the full intention of putting some washi tape on there, but it never eventuated, so I just painted up to the borders. Slightly messy, but I do quite like the rustic feel of it. Not too bad considering the lack of blue. Onwards to the next painting using the muted set, and you can see I've added in those three colours that I was missing from the Shades of Nature one. Those are the Buff Titanium, Yellow Ochre and Olive Green, because I wanted to use all of the colours that were in the muted set without having to open the doubles. So this painting is another one from Facebook, and it's a wheelhouse, or one of those water wheel things. I can never remember what they're called. So it was just a really pretty scene and it caught my eye. I'd saved the picture out and I thought, looking at it, that quite a lot of the colours seemed like they would be from this muted set, although I have taken some liberties with the colours and made up quite a lot of the watercolours, just because I wanted to add in as many of the colours from the set as possible. So most of them are actually pretty muted, including the green and the lavender. They're not super bright, but the quinacridone rose and the gamboge really are very much brighter than I would expect a muted palette to be. Anyway, it doesn't matter too much. As an overall palette, this one is far more useful than the first one because it does have a couple of colours which you can mix together to create a lighter blue, and I was able to mix the lavender and that turquoise green to make a fairly passable blue for the sky. It was actually surprisingly good in the end, but honestly it would just be easier if there was a proper blue that wasn't as dark as the indigo. The indigo is lovely, don't get me wrong, but it does have its limitations and it is far more useful as either a mixing colour or a shadow colour. It is actually a muted blue, funnily enough. And now I'm going in with the sky blue that I mixed. It's not exactly the right colour, but it's passable for a sky. This painting looks like such a hot mess at the moment, but it did actually get a lot better and I just persevered with it. There was a lot of tree background and it took me a while to colour everything in because I needed to let the tree trunks and twigs dry before I went in with the foliage. So I just kept moving around the painting, going to areas that had dried so I could add more detail, and eventually the whole painting came together. Okay, I'm going to call it done for now. I'm actually really happy with these paintings, especially this one. The Muted Colours palette is actually really nice, and aside from missing a blue, at least I was able to mix a blue from the lavender and the turquoise green, and the indigo was quite good too. So overall, this was an excellent palette. This one, which is the Shades of Nature, is sorely lacking in a blue and a red as well. So it's like it's missing 2 of the 3 primary colours, and so it's extremely limited. If you're going to pick one of these, go for the Muted palette over the Shades of Nature. I liked all of the paints in both sets to actually use them. They're really nice paints. They are somewhat student grade, but I didn't really have any issues with them, and I think the pictures showcase how the paints have turned out. I'll just bring it up a little bit. You can see, especially around the indigo areas, there is a bit of whiteness on there, which I think is filler from the paints. So you are going to end up with a little bit of chalkiness, but it is not significantly bad. It's just in a few areas where I noticed that. So here are the original palettes. I am going to actually rearrange both of these palettes to make 2 new palettes with colours that will work together, and I have 3 extra colours to do that. I'll be focusing on that in the next video. I think I have just enough space to do some more swatches over here, so we'll see how I go. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful, and if you've been curious about the Van Gogh Pocket sets, they're nice, but in particular that Shades of Nature, super limited, so do consider that when you're looking at the sets. Make sure it has some kind of primary triad in there. If it's missing a blue or a red, it makes it very difficult to mix up things like blacks and have bluer shades in things, so yeah, do be wary of that. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up because that really helps out my channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so, especially if you want to see the second part of this where I completely rearrange these pocket sets, and I will see you all again really soon in my next video. Have a fantastic day out there. Swatch you later. Bye!